Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 294 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and a two-time author. Our second book is called From Letters to Leaders, Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing. So go and pick up that book today on Amazon. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, our next guest was actually seated right next to a very close friend and fraternity brother of mine on a flight. And the two started talking, built up an instant friendship. And then as soon as they landed, I got the phone call saying, "Hey, Mike, you got to have this guy on your show. You got to make this happen." So here we are. I mean, recommendations come from all over the planet on great guests for the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. And I couldn't be more honored to have our next guest on the show, because our next guest is the one and only Skip Robinson. He is an accomplished, motivated community relations professional with over 40 years of experience. His core competencies, they include forging partnerships and alliances, market planning, events and promotions, team building, and of course, leadership. Now, did I mention that he was the director of operations for the Boys and Girls Club of Palm Beach County? And did I mention that he served as vice president of player development and community relations for the NBA's Milwaukee Bucks? Yes, all of that is true. Welcome to the show, Skip.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Of course, it's an honor to just be in your presence. I mean, what can I say? I mean, a day with you is perfect. No matter how it happens, virtually, in person, whatever, I'm down anytime.
Let's do this. Let's do it.
All right, Skip. Now listen, your childhood was not an easy one. You definitely had what I would call a very, very tough childhood. Your older brother committed suicide by shooting himself right in front of your eyes at the age of 2. And I know that you were very, very young at this age. Do you remember anything from that particular event?
It's funny you ask that question. I don't remember anything, but what took place in my life up until I was 10 or 11 tied back to what happened with my brother while I was in the room. Because when I was younger, I couldn't sleep with any type of cover on me, a sheet or anything. It was too heavy. And I couldn't have a TV or radio on because it was too loud. So back in the day, of course, I'm aging myself, but back in the day, as African Americans, we didn't go see a psychiatrist. So my mom shares with me what happened, and we'll get into that story later on, but I put it together myself. He laid there for a while because my mom and dad thought it was a car that had backfired in the room, and they didn't come in there right away. So he laid on me for a while. And then the sound of the shot probably echoed in my head, and that's why I couldn't hear things too loud as I was growing up. So I kind of eventually grew out of that, but that's what I remember that haunted me for years.
Yeah, that's a lot of trauma at an extremely young age. And then it continued. I mean, at age 3, your father died from a massive stroke in an Orlando, Florida hospital. And then later that year, while your mom was cooking, a woman representing the state of Florida plucked you up from your tricycle. So now you and your sister Gwen all of a sudden are now wards of the state in Florida. And at that moment, I know you felt abandoned. You were angry that your mom never came to come and pick you up. So how did that event play out over your childhood?
Well, I was an angry young man, to say the least. I had a quick temper. This is how I remember it. I was in the kitchen. This is what I remember. I shared that with my mom as well. She was frying chicken, and I was 3, and I don't know how I can remember this, but I did. And then my grandmother adopted us. She passed away, then my grandfather, and then my aunt, and then later my sister Gwen, who's like my mother and my sister, took care of me for the rest of my life.
Wow. Oh my goodness, what a story. So, all right, so you have this childhood. I know that you had a lot of anger, a lot of emotions going on, but basketball helped you to channel all of those emotions. So now in high school near Ann Arbor, you averaged 17 points and 15 rebounds a game as a senior in high school. You also excelled in track. You did the high jump, 6 feet, 9 inches. I mean, that's very, very impressive. I know because I did track. You attended junior college, and you were later accepted with a basketball scholarship to the University of Nebraska-Omaha without even seeing the campus, sight unseen. So, what was it like going to college at UNO on a basketball scholarship?
Well, let's first talk about Wyoming. Sheridan, Wyoming was an experience for me coming from Detroit. And well, went to high school at Ypsilanti, Michigan. That's near Ann Arbor. But it was an experience there because it was rodeos, cowboys, roping cows with their heads stuck in the hay. It was all experience. And a lot of guys on that team was from Chicago, Detroit, New York, but we gelled. That was an experience. That was my first time ever seeing a keg of beer. We would go up in these mountains and put the keg of beer in the stream, and it was different. Okay, it was different for me. That was an experience. And then going to University of Nebraska-Omaha, by that time I was the man on campus. I was doing pretty well. I was feeling good about myself. My anger had subsided somewhat. I was becoming to my own self of what I could be. I'm telling you, if you get a chance to experience a college life on campus, definitely do it because it's nothing like it. It grows you, you develop friendships, and you develop things that you didn't think you had in you. And you accept some of those scary feelings that you feel when you're alone.
Hmm. Well, thank goodness for basketball. I mean, clearly that was your ticket to help you deal with all of those emotions that you were growing up with. And eventually you played professionally for Toulouse BC basketball in France. So what was that experience like playing in a foreign country for several years?
Well, let me tell you how that started, Michael. We were playing a pickup game in Nebraska in the gym. Some guys and I and some scouts came through the gym and said, we're having these tryouts in Des Moines, Iowa. And would you like to come and try out? And I said to the guys, hey, road trip. So we drove, and I killed it for those 2 days, like 22 points, 15 rebounds, the normal. And so I called my sister right from Iowa and said, hey, look, I've been accepted to go play professional ball in Europe. And she says, is this something you want to do? And I says, yeah, I want to do it. So I went. One day I was in Nebraska. The next week I was in France. And it was an experience again. But God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. And he's made a way for me out of no way. And I thank him for that over and over again.
Yeah. What an incredible experience. Just be able to go to France and play professional basketball. Are you kidding me? Like, where do I sign? That sounds like a dream. That's just incredible. So, okay, so now after all your adventures in France, now you start to work with at-risk youth. So you took a job at the Boys and Girls Club of Omaha, and you were making less than $4 an hour. So, you started out as, your job was passing out towels, and then eventually that leads to an administrative position with the Boys and Girls Club. So, what was driving you to work there and just pass out towels?
$3.65 to be exact.
Oh my goodness.
But you know what? I enjoyed it. If you find something you enjoy, it's never a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's never a job.
Mm-hmm.
And passing out those towels, it was heaven to me, honestly. I got a chance to meet a lot of kids that were going through a lot of things I went through in my early part of my life. They were somewhat abandoned sometimes, and they didn't have a direction. And I felt like they were listening to me and what I had to say. And I was like a role model to them. And I enjoyed that. And yeah, like you said, eventually I got so skilled at doing what I was doing. I went on, became a fire director, a club director, a VP of operations. It just led me in so many different directions with the education that I had developed.
Mm-hmm. Man, oh man, you're blessed. I mean, somebody up there is definitely looking out for you and kind of steering the wheel and getting you just in the right place at the right time. It's just you go from one adventure to the next adventure. There were some problems, through it. I mean, you started to put down these roots in Milwaukee, and then all of a sudden you receive this troubling phone call from Alabama, basically saying, "Hey, come see your mom really quick. She's very ill." So then you drive to your sister's house. Your mother had been drinking, and you decided to take her on the road to Milwaukee. All of a sudden, your mother wakes up on the road. She's calling you by your father's name, right? Coley. And then you told her that, "Hey, I'm Skip, Mom." And then, of course, she's asking for another drink. And at that point, you cut her off. You're like, "Absolutely not. You're not drinking again." And from that moment forward, she never had another drink. And
No,
now in Milwaukee, you're spending every single day together. And she died 4 years later, but not before building a relationship with her children. So, talk to our audience. I mean, how did the time that you spent with her, finally getting to know her, how did that help to complete your life?
I feel like I came full circle.
Yeah.
I felt like I came full circle because she didn't know what colors I like. She didn't know what foods I like. She didn't know anything about me. Our first birthday that I can remember, I was 36 years old there in Milwaukee. Um, and, she stayed in this place called Just Like Home. It was 3 women upstairs, 3 downstairs. And I would show up there every day. And she never spoke, never said a word about to the folks that lived there that she had abandoned me and that we were back reunited. And so I didn't say anything either. So I would sit and talk to her about my childhood and what she could tell me up until I was 3. That's how I can record some of the things that had happened. But, it was so wonderful because I would lay there and look at her sometimes. We lay in the bed next to each other. She slept like me. Her personality, it was mine. Her sense of humor, it was mine. So the DNA was there. And you don't have to be around people for those things to happen. And I learned that. And again, blessed to get a chance to get to know my mom. And that little time we spent together, it stays in my heart it will be there for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's just incredible. I mean, I couldn't imagine not knowing all of those things about your mom. So to have that opportunity before she passed away, I mean, you're never going to forget that. You're never going
No,
to forget that.
no,
And you know what? That brings you peace. That brings you calm. That brings you just a knowing that, hey, I really know who this woman was, and her core, and where you came from, and all of those things. I mean, it's so critical. It's such a basic thing, but I'm so glad that you had that opportunity.
yes.
And listen, the big thing, the big event in your life, for me anyway, because I'm a big NBA fan. I mean, you served as vice president of community relations and player development for the Milwaukee Bucks of the NBA, and you held that position for 15 years. So, what
Yes.
was it like working for the NBA? That's a dream job.
It's a dream job. I remember the interview I had with Ernie Grunfeld, who was the general manager at one time for the New York Knicks, and then he was with the Milwaukee Bucks, and George Karl, who was our head coach at the time. And then at that time, we had Ray Allen, Big Dog, Glenn Robinson, and Sam Cassell on the team. It was interesting, but here again, I looked at these players as I looked at my kids in the games room. The only difference was they were millionaires.
Yeah.
And they all needed direction and leadership. And I couldn't fail them. I couldn't be in awe of them and then try to guide them. They had enough of that going along already. Everyone was doing whatever they wanted to do. And that was not me. Not to say that I didn't listen to what they had to say, but I wanted them to hear what I had to say and the experience I had developed in my years. And I still have those relationships today with those guys. And not only did I do that, Michael, but the NBA gave me a chance to be a part of All-Star weekends. So I dealt with Kevin Durant, Shaq, different players in All-Star weekends for those days that I was there, wherever we were at. And we did NBA Cares. It was something that I'll never forget, and I don't think they will either, because they still keep in touch with me. A lot of those players, I have them on speed dial, and we talked. And Giannis Antetokounmpo was my rook his first year there, and I've got pictures of him. You would never believe how small he was his rookie year until what he looks like today, a grown man. And I've been godfather to a couple of the NBA players' kids. So it's been a good relationship, and it's a good experience.
Oh my God, that sounds like a dream to me. I mean, I sit here and I watch like Michael Jordan's documentary on Netflix, and he's talking about all the stories that have happened that like nobody knows about. And I'm just like, watching just in like complete fascination about what's going to happen next. I'm sure there's a million interesting stories that you can tell us about your interactions with some of those NBA stars.
One of the things about Michael, Michael and I developed a little relationship during the league, and when he stopped playing, and he was at one of our games, he was then the owner of the Charlotte Hornets, and he came to me and he said, "Skip, now that I left the NBA, you're the best dressed man in the league."
That had to make you feel good.
He said that he left a nugget with me, but there were a lot of things that players that I believe what is so much is given, so much is expected, right? And so there would be players where we did this thing with the seniors in high school and senior citizens, and we had them interact with each other. And at the end of this program, I had my players dress up as hostess, and they would serve food to these senior citizens, and at this senior high-rise. And we were in one of these apartments, and this guy didn't have an air conditioner. And he was 103 years old. And one of the players said, "Skip, let's leave here now and go get an air conditioner for this guy and put it in." Those are things that touch me, that I felt like I was a part of that, them maturing and saying, "Hey, these are things I want to do." It's not always about me. And I think a lot of people get it twisted with NBA players or NFL players or professional players at all. They still remember their roots. It's just they need a little guidance as well.
Wow, what an amazing opportunity just to be able to hang with the guys that you've been able to hang out with, man. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I'm straight up jealous. All right, well, that's amazing. So, all right, so you have all of these experiences. I mean, you're playing basketball in France. You got the Boys and Girls Club. You've got the NBA and the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, what's next? What's the next chapter for you, Skip?
I told you I've been blessed, Michael, right?
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be on your show, to be able to get my message out here, honestly. And I want to continue to do that. Maya Angelou, one of my favorite poets, she says, I've learned that people forget what you said, and people even forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. Yeah. And my goal in life is to be there in a small capacity to talk about my successes and my failures if it's going to help someone. Mm-hmm. And I want to continue to do that until they put me in the ground. Mm. I want to be able to do that in some level. And I don't care if it's one person. If it's one, it made a difference with that person.
Right.
So that's what I want to continue to do, Michael. I want to there's so much potential out there with folks. We see a lot of bad on TV and the social media, but there's a lot of positive in the world. And there's a lot of people that need a helping hand. They're not asking for a handout. They just want a helping hand. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm here for.
Man, that's beautiful. That's absolutely amazing. And that's exactly why I do what I do. People say to me, "Mike, you're never going to solve, this hazing problem that happens on college campuses and in fraternities and sororities." And my response is always the same. If I can save one person from getting hurt, just one, yes, then it's all worth it. Then everything I do is all worth it. The daily TikTok videos, the mm-hmm. podcast, the speaking, traveling all over the country and speaking about hazing prevention, writing books, all of that stuff. If I save one person, just one, then it was 100% worth it, and I'm cool with it.
Yeah, so am I.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm totally cool with it. And like, it helped that one person, and that, is something that, you take with you. And so, so that's really what it's all about. And maybe if we all, adopt that attitude and everybody's out there helping one person, then, we live in a better world,
There you
it's a
go.
better place for all of us. So, I love what you do. I think you're really inspirational. I think there's a lot of college students that look up to guys like you, basically coming from the background that you did, the challenges that you had as a kid, and then persevering anyway, like just finding a way to make it all work, and using whatever God-given talents you received, and just using that to the utmost. I mean, that's just so inspirational. And then of course, everybody wants to talk about the NBA, so
Yep.
you've got all those stories and more. So I know that you are going to absolutely change a lot of lives with your words. And I just want to say it's an honor spending time with you. And I can't wait to see you on college campuses all across the country.
I can't wait either, Michael. And thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate that. And you keep doing what you do.
Thanks, man.
You keep doing it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. There's some days that I sit there and I scratch my head, reading the newspaper headlines, stuff like that. And I'm like, what is going on?
Uh-huh.
But then there's other days when somebody, sends me a message and said that,
Uh-huh.
you really made a difference for me. And this is what we're doing in our chapter to make it a little bit safer. And so it's like those moments, it's little stuff. I mean, it's
It's
nothing
little
big.
stuff.
It's
And
just the little messages that somebody said that says, you know what, like your words made a difference, and we actually made some changes on our campus because of what you said. You
and I
know?
want people to have that same experience. They're out there.
Yeah.
I want them to have the same experience that you and I are having in their lives, because it'll make a difference in their life over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about that all the time. I've definitely been given opportunities by many people that, just like you said, they put, their hand out to help me up when I was down, because there's plenty of times that has happened. And just wanted an opportunity. And some people apparently believed in me, and they gave a kid with a dream an opportunity. And
Sure.
when you do that, when you open that door, all kinds of things are possible. So I'm definitely indebted to a lot of people that helped me out. And I'm sure the same is true for you.
Yes, for
That is
sure.
great. That is really great. All right. So if our college students who are listening right now to you, Skip, if they want to bring you in to come in and speak on their college campus, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Probably email
Okay.
skiprob24@gmail.com, or they can even text or call 414-841-0700. I'm working on this webpage.
Nice, nice. I can't wait for that to come out, but I think, the email and the text, I think that is absolutely perfect. I have a feeling your phone and your emails are going to start lighting up really, really quickly. So get ready for that. And what can I say? Thank you so much for spending time with us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you, Michael. I salute you.
Thanks so much, Skip. It means a
All
lot
right.
coming from you. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Skip Robinson, make sure you like it. Make sure that you share it on social media so that way other college students get the opportunity to hear from Skip. And we are going to see you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and we're going to see you next time.